In the world of holistic nutrition, there's a lot of misunderstanding in the intersect between carbohydrates, gluten, and grains. So, what is this all about? Why do some diets, like keto, completely demonize all carbohydrates, whereas other diets, like a full vegan diet, are all about it? In this lesson, I hope to demystify this world a little bit for you and help to draw the golden thread between where you are, where you desire to be with your health, and how grains may actually be more supportive for you than you think. What you're about to watch and listen to is a part of a training that I did inside of one of my holistic nutrition programs. By the way, if we haven't met yet, my name is Amy. I'm a holistic nutritionist, an Ayurvedic practitioner, a human design reader, and a yoga teacher who's on a mission to support you in healing your gut. So, if this sounds like you and you're curious about this wonderful world of grains, enjoy the lesson ahead.
Carbs have been demonized over the past few decades as the macro that makes you fat, which is such a damn shame. Carbs are awesome, and they definitely do not get the credit that they deserve. Carbs are necessary to support our health, and they are found exclusively in the plant kingdom. Carbs function in our body not only as fuel, but as communication devices, delivering messages between cells. They play a major role in our immune systems and hormone production. And carbs even help to regulate the metabolism of other macronutrients, our proteins and fats. Moreover, the balance between these three food components helps to determine the robustness of our immune response, our bone and tissue growth, joint fluidity, and the rate of healing following injury. Needless to say, we absolutely need carbs in our diets. That being said, not all carbs are created equal. Carbs break down into glucose or sugar in our blood, and sugar is sugar is sugar, no matter which way you spin it. Of course, we do need to be careful with our sugar intake. The more complex the carb, the slower this breakdown process happens. And we want a slow process because if the breakdown of sugars happens too quickly, it can lead to high blood sugar levels, which that's not a positive thing, and that can lead to irregular release of hormones like insulin and cortisol, which is the stress hormone. When this happens too frequently, that can lead to insulin resistance, which is a precursor to diabetes. And if ever you've experienced hunger or lightheadedness if you go too long without meals, this is a really good indicator that your blood sugar is not balanced. That would be called dysglycemia. Now, there is no magic number of carbs to eat every single day. Just like with most nutrients, it depends on the individual. I will say that it's ideal to direct one's focus to the whole food, complex carbs that come from eating a wide variety of produce, grains, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, all of it. And this is the most surefire way to avoid the dangers of too much sugar. Simple carbs look like refined flours, pastries, pasta, pizza, bagels, etc., and fruit juices, where the fiber has been removed, like apple juice or orange juice, processed and packaged foods, and all types of sugars, even the natural ones like maple and unrefined cane sugars. So, fun fact for you, fiber is nature's antidote to sugar. This is why eating a whole food is so much better than refined. Nature has already provided you with the necessary synergy to keep a healthy functioning body. So, thanks, nature. The effect of having too few carbs is also quite detrimental, like the ketogenic diet or keto diet, which has gained way too much popularity in recent times. By removing carbs completely, it actually puts your body into a state of stress and starvation. So it begins producing ketones as fuel instead of glucose. All of this to say, we must start looking at a whole complex carb as a good friend who's got our best interest in mind, not some bully who's trying to ruin our lives. Now, there are some signs of imbalance, right? And I say imbalance because it could mean too few or too many. Lightheadedness, dizziness between meals, and that those are usually from too high carbs and having that hanger cycle happen. Sugar cravings, slow metabolism when weight gain can actually be from too few carbs, hyperactivity followed by an energy crash. So you get really excited. You remember, if you ever see kids and they eat sugar and they get all excited and then they're sleeping like 20 minutes later, that happens as adults. We just have a little bit more control over the situation. Dysglycemia, right? Prediabetes or diabetes type 2 and fatty liver. These are signs of too much carbohydrates, of the wrong carbohydrates. So, how we correct this? Reduce the simple carbs, right? Reduce the processed foods and consume more low glycemic, whole plant based foods. Combine simple carbs with fiber, protein and or fats, which helps to offset the quick processing and breakdown of those carbs. You want to time your carb consumption around high activity. So if you know that you're going to do a workout or do some cardio or an exercise of any kind, time them around that. Grains are an excellent source of fiber, amino acids, carbohydrates, and lots of minerals like iron, magnesium, and calcium. And getting the right grains is ideal. You might be expecting me to throw gluten under the bus, which I'm not going to do, at least not right now. The best way to upgrade your grain situation is to focus on whole grains instead of refined grains. For example, going for rice instead of pasta, or a side of whole grain like millet or quinoa instead of bread. Let's talk about ancient grains. They are awesome because they're less mainstream and typically they're not as highly sprayed or sought after, which means they can be more affordable. And because they're left alone, more so than wheat and rice industries, they're often more nutrient dense. Less of their natural nutrition has been stripped due to chemical farming. So, side note, I am a major big fan of shopping bulk for most things, especially grains. There are some really great bulk food stores that have entire organic sections, or they can be entirely organic. So check them out and support some locals. Now, let's actually take a second just to talk about gluten. There are so many haters out there, so let's understand why that is. I like to think of gluten as glue to the power of 10. Gluten is a specific protein known for its binding abilities. And if you've ever tried gluten free cookies or cakes, you know what I mean. They're often pretty dry and crumbly. The glue component of gluten can paste down the microvilli in your intestines, which are actually there to help you absorb nutrients from food. When those microvilli are glued down, they cannot do their job, which renders the consumer nutrient deficient. In addition, gluten can be pretty inflammatory. And I speculate this is due to the nature of gluten containing grains being more highly chemically sprayed and processed, though there are some individuals who simply cannot tolerate gluten. Intolerance comes in many degrees, the worst of it being celiac disease, an autoimmune disorder that makes the consumption of gluten extremely painful and unpleasant. Others might be intolerant, and some people just straight up need to take a break and strengthen their digestive fire before they consume it again in moderation. Gluten itself is not evil, it's not bad. However, a digestive system that's not primed and ready to digest gluten can really, really struggle. And this is why we're seeing so many more sensitivities and gluten free diets popping up. As a general rule of thumb, I'm pro gluten, but also pro gluten reduction and conscious consumption. Most inflammatory foods can also be addictive, which is why we aim to avoid them. I'm going to repeat that. Most inflammatory foods, like gluten, can also be addictive, which is why we want to avoid them or reduce the amount that we eat. The good news, not all grains contain gluten. In fact, most grains do not contain gluten. Now, when you're upgrading your pantry with grains, I invite you to try getting some that might be new to you. Maybe millet or barley or buckwheat or oats. Quinoa is another really great naturally gluten-free grain that's gained a lot of popularity over the last decade, and rightfully so. It's super high in protein and very, very versatile. The moral here, as per usual, is to go organic whenever possible. Aim to reduce your gluten consumption, to heal your digestive system, and aim for the majority of your consumption to be from whole, unrefined grains instead of flours, pastas, and pastries.
Well, that is that. Of course, there is so much more that we could get into when it comes to the world of grains, carbohydrates, and gluten. This was a taste, if you will, of what you can look forward to when you start to enter into this magnificent world. Of course, I do think it's really important when we're consuming grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds that we also take food activation into account. And if you're not yet familiar with that, you can check out this video, wherever the link is, and learn a little bit more about this. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Same thing if you didn't like this video, give it a thumbs down. Your feedback really matters to me. And if you like this type of lesson and this type of information, I'm going to invite you to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. That's going to really support me in making sure that I can support you with so many more lessons like these in the future.